Right, to flow test on DIY Dutch buckets, I wanted to make a system that had removable inner buckets that were a little sturdier than a lot of the baskets I've seen. Allowed me to change plants in and out, try some different stuff if I wanted, just a little bit more modular than most of the systems I've seen. The holes at the bottom obviously allow water into the inner bucket. Got a mixture of coconut coir and expanded clay medium in these. A lot of them I've got clay medium up to just above the holes, and then coconut pith above that for easy starting for smaller roots, things like that. Got 4 of those made up. The outer buckets just have a hole on the front right there, another one on the back. Same for these reservoir buckets, hole in the front, hole on the back. The reservoir buckets themselves have a common line here to maintain constant water level. This one back here is basically set to be this upper part to be just above the pump level. The pump sits about here, so that if the water in this pump bucket ever drops to this point, the water in this bucket will be sucked out at twice the rate due to the higher pressure here than there is in the other bucket. That'll draw the water to the other side, make sure that pump doesn't end up running dry. The upper buckets have a similar line across the back right here to maintain a constant water level. Little 370 gallon per hour pump running a 1/2 inch line to what will eventually be something more specific than this, something drip spikes or something to that effect to service each plant. This is just to get the flow set up and testing. The drains I opted for, obviously with the other bucket dropping in here, the bottoms of them come down to about here, so I couldn't just plumb a drain into the side, so my drain had to be done down low, but still maintain a water level up a little bit higher. So each one has an air inlet and a water outlet down to the main drain line. As the water fills up to this T, it drains off, but when it starts to drop below that, this allows air in to break the suction. Without this here, you actually create what's called an ebb and flow system, or fill and drain. If you cap this off, when the water level reaches this point, it will actually drain the bucket back down almost to the drain level all on its own, just from the suction. So this system actually allows me to set it up a couple different ways just by capping those hoses there and putting the pump on a timer. It also gives a nice little, it's not a whole lot, but it creates a little bubbler effect on the outlet so that it's constantly mixing a little bit of oxygen into the system. Still going to put a stone into each bucket so that they have some direct oxygen contact, but something a little smaller that'll fit flat in the bottom. I found some at the local aquaponics store for about $6 that'll do the job. As far as parts go, I've got 2 of these per bucket. The little top hat grommets are about 50 cents a piece. This is just regular irrigation swing pipe from Home Depot. A 100-foot roll of that's about $22. These fittings are $6.50 for 10 from the aquaponics store also. You have to heat the swing pipe up to actually get these to fit in there. It's not quite as big and flexible as the Hydrofarm line is. The Hydrofarm stuff has a real nice flexibility and a nice stretch to it. It can be taken off real easily, stuff like that, but it doesn't lay flat very well, so that's why the swing pipe was used here and here. Something a little bit more rigid. System is modular. I could pretty easily expand this as long or short as you wanted, so it can be a dozen buckets or 4. The ultimate goal is to have this running off a koi pond, to have a 12-foot pond that'll be going into the ground, to turn this into an aquaponic system that can be broken away and moved inside in the winter to maintain the growth we've developed throughout the year, and then bring them back out next summer and really have them take off like a shot. The pump's probably the most expensive part. It's an Active Aqua 370 gallon per hour. It's about $25 at the local aquaponics store. You might be able to get one a few bucks cheaper online, but to be quite frank, I'd suggest that you go to the local aquaponics store just so that they're still in business and there when you need them. Handy resource to have. You can't get a lot of this stuff anywhere else, so you really want to try to support those businesses if we can, so that we can have access to those things when we need them. ideally the system will run off the same few gallons of water most of the summer, with just the occasional top off for evaporation. Each bucket eventually get a lid that minimizes the amount of surface area that's exposed, so that we can minimize evaporation, things of that nature. The whole goal is to use as little water as possible for as much growth as possible. Any kind of nutrients, fertilizers, anything like that can be added to the reserve bucket. The pump bucket obviously will mix everything in on its own. By adding the nutrients here, by the time they make it to the pump, they've gone through enough water flow that hopefully they've mixed into the water a little bit, so you don't end up with any strong concentrations. I don't think that'd be a problem by the time it got to the plants though. But more updates to follow. Said it's all kind of piecework at this point, just trying to see what works and what doesn't.